For 10 years, I was Stanford University's Dean of Freshmen. And this meant that I got to watch thousands, tens of thousands of young adults unfolding into their adult selves. My students would ask me questions all the time. Should I take this? Should I take that? What should I do next? Is this okay? Do I want this opportunity? But you know what? I didn't see that it was my job as dean to give them answers. I mean, who am I to tell any other human how to live their life? Instead, I saw my job as dean as to ask good questions that opened my students up further to their own selves, their wants, their desires, their fears, their dreams, so they could make better choices in college and in life accordingly. Well, in those 10 years as freshman dean, you might say I had a front row view to changes in childhood. Here's what I mean. Somehow, it seemed every single year, each class was more accomplished than the last. Higher grades, higher scores, longer resumes. They were seemingly so much more accomplished. How was that possible? Year after year. And yet, at the same time, my students seemed less and less familiar with themselves every year. They could say what they'd accomplished, but they couldn't necessarily say who they were. They were great at being told what to do. They could soar through those hoops and expectations. But they weren't so sure about who they were, really, if they had to think for themselves. So while we were seeing these changes in our students, we were also seeing the rise in the number of parents who would come to our campus or be really involved in the lives of their students to ask questions and solve problems and make choices. And also on the rise during this time were mental health disorders among young people, particularly college students, particularly depression and anxiety. Now, mind you, this was not a Stanford-only problem. I would talk to colleagues at colleges and universities around the nation, and everybody was noticing similar things. I would talk to people at universities, large universities and small colleges, public schools, private schools, schools in the Midwest, the South, the East, and right here on the West Coast, in every tier, top tier, second tier, third tier, no tier. Every single college and university campus, all the folks there were noticing something has changed about childhood. Why do I say childhood? Because when you come to college, you are the product of your childhood. Well, I was concerned. I was concerned not just because of my own students who I cared about deeply. You know, I was rooting for my students no matter what. But I'm also a parent. I'm a parent of two amazing kids right here in Palo Alto. So I was concerned on behalf of all of you. What's going on? I decided to investigate. And as the MC said, I've written a book. It's called How to Raise an Adult. It's coming to a bookstore near you in June. I'm not going to tell you all about the book now, but I am going to tell you about one important thing I found when I began to investigate. What I learned was that about 25 to 30 years ago, we, parents, decided that childhood needed to come with a checklist, okay? We got really worried. It's a scary, competitive world. We love you. We want your every success. So we created a checklist of childhood, sort of drawn up of our fears and our loves and our wants and dreams for you. We wanted it to be safe and structured and planned and lead to your success. We wanted you to go to the right schools. Little audience participation now. How many of you have ever heard something to this effect? You're already raising your hand. You know where I'm going to go with this. All right, how many of you have heard, we moved here, we are here, we got a job here, so you could go to Gunn High School? Raise your hand. Right on. I would say that's 90% of the hands. All right. Gunn High School. You're at one of the best high schools in the nation. And you know what the message is when we say, we moved here so you could go to Gunn High School? You know what we're kind of saying? Don't screw it up, kid. Okay? No pressure, but it's Gunn High School. We've provided this for you. This is on the checklist of childhood. Gunn, check it off. Do it well, okay? It used to be go to Gunn because then you can get into one of the best schools. The only schools we think are worthy of our child will lead to success. But now it's become not just the high school, but the right kindergarten. Not just the right kindergarten, but the right preschool. All of the schools are on the checklist of childhood. Okay? And it's not just schools, it's activities. You got to be in sports. You got to be in clubs. You got to be a leader. You got to do community service. All of these things we think are going to lead to your success. But over time, everybody got the checklist. So it was no longer enough for you to get ahead by filling out the checklist. No, everyone's got the checklist. So the checklist now includes you have to be better at everyone at this item, and best at that, and excel at that, okay? So childhood has become this time of school, 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 homework, 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 activities, sports, clubs. Don't just be in a club, start a club. Don't just join a club, lead a club. And don't forget community service, because colleges want to see that too. You've got friends, you've got social lives, you've got family, you've got hopes and dreams, you've got video games. You're stressed out, there's so much going on in your young lives. Sometimes, for some of you, it's too much. It's too much. If you were brave enough, you might break into applause. For some of you, it's too much. There are study drugs you have to take in order to check off the checklist of childhood. Sometimes you feel the impulse to cheat because that's the only way to get through. Some of you are struggling with anxiety and depression. You're wondering, I'm going to this club, I'm going to this thing. Is it even what I want? How would I even know? I'm just doing what they tell me because they tell me so. I just want to succeed and be good enough. I want you to know that we parents are starting to get it. We see you. We see you struggling within the structure of our expectations and dreams. We see you trying to breathe on your way to trying to achieve. We see some of you saying, will this ever be worth it? If this resonates with you, and I know it does with many, here's what I want to say right now. If you remember nothing else from what I say today, please tuck this into your pocket and remember it for later. Breathe. Just breathe. I know some of you are sitting here thinking about the class you're missing right now. All right? Breathe. And I'm going to tell you what every parent, if they were up here on this stage, would tell you. You are our precious child. You are a person of worth and value that has nothing to do with your GPA or your SAT scores or how many APs you're taking or what AP scores you get. You're a person of worth and value. You matter regardless of all of that stuff. You are loved. You are worthy of love. We, your parents, love you. We adore you. We created this checklist for you. We thought it would lead to your success, but we got it wrong. Here's why. We think we know what belongs on the checklist of childhood to lead to your success because we've lived our life. We're 30, we're 40, we're 50. We've had so many lessons learned, and we've tried to boil all those lessons learned down into a checklist that we can hand our kids so that somehow they'll just do the checklist and become a successful human. But we've forgotten that the only reason we know what goes on the checklist is because we tried and failed, because we made choices that were dumb, so that we knew which choices were better. We took bad paths. We went down the wrong road. That's how we knew what the right path was. There is no checklist of life. We weren't given a checklist. Somehow, paradoxically, we've gotten our imperative as parents wrong. We're mammals, after all. We may be mammals who wear clothing, but we're mammals. And a job of a mammal parent is to raise its offspring to thrive and survive without the parent, without a checklist. I'm speaking somewhat in my parent voice right now, and my own kid is in this audience, and I know it's probably hard for him to see his mom get kind of emotional and on stage. So now I'm going to put my former freshman dean hat on, I know you might listen to me more when I'm wearing that hat. As a former freshman dean, I'm going to tell you, here's what I think is the secret to a successful life. Figure out what you're good at. Figure out what you love. Figure out what you value. I'm going to say it again. It's not complicated. It's that simple. Figure out what you're good at. Figure out what you love. And figure out what you value. The Venn diagram is the answer to what will allow you to lead a happy, successful, joyful, meaningful, purposeful life. Now, sometimes we sort of shorthand this and we say, find your passion, okay? Find your passion, and preferably, find that passion before you have to write your college essays, because colleges like to see a young person who's found their passion. Well, guess what? Colleges know that most young people haven't quite found their passion beyond the guy or gal 2 rows over and 1 seat back. Okay, by age 17, many of you can be passionate about that, but passion in the sense of what I'm going to do with my life, who knows that by 17? A very small handful, and if that's you, more power to you, okay? But all we really mean is life is about figuring out who you are, your passion, your purpose, your path. You're not meant to know it all now. You're not meant to know it all by the time you apply to college. You will take the time through your adolescence and 20s, maybe even into your 30s, to figure it out. And then you will lead a successful, joyful, happy, purposeful, meaningful life. Here is my checklist in furtherance of your leading that successful life. There are 5 items on it. Number 1, be kind. Does that sound a little dumb? You're like, what? Be kind? Yeah. Parents always say that. I mean it. You will be astonished to discover if you walk through this world intentionally acting with kindness toward your fellow human beings, you will be astonished at the doors that open to you, as how the world opens to you when you are acting with kindness. It's free and it's easy. Be kind. Number 2, work hard. Life is challenging. Life is hard. Don't let anyone try to tell you otherwise. There are ups and there are downs. It's confusing, it's complicated, it's complex. It is also full of adventure and wonder and possibility. Work hard, okay? You must apply your effort to achieve the outcomes you desire. Now, sometimes we mess up this message. We say, honey, all I'm asking is that you just do your best. Well, just do your best do not belong in the same sentence, because it basically means what we expect is that you will always do your best. We're never always doing our best. We parents, we grown-ups, we teachers. Why are we asking it of you? What we mean is try. Try is a kinder word. It acknowledges sometimes shit happens. Sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes you will fail colossally. And that happens to everybody in life. And that's okay. Work hard. Number 3, think for yourself. You began this world as a baby. And in your first year, you were spoon-fed. And at some point, you got to grow from the spoon-fed baby into an adult who thinks for themselves. And I'm here to tell you, it doesn't magically happen when you turn 18 or 21, okay? Childhood is meant to be this process through which you move from a spoon-fed baby to an adult who thinks for themselves. Don't be spoon-fed here at Gunn. Don't choose activities because everyone's choosing that activity. Listen to yourself. What am I curious about? What makes me tick? What's worth getting out of bed for in the morning? What's worth staying up at night late to talk about? These are clues from yourself as to what matters to you. Listen to those clues. Think for yourself. I spoke to a young man the other day, and he said, you know what I'm really interested in, or what I think about sometimes? He said, if I was God, I would create these little puzzles, and I would plant them all over the planet for humans to solve. And I thought, what? Weird. Wonderful. Wonderful. and I told him so. This kid likes logic and math and puzzles and philosophy. And I said, you know what? That's it. Write about that in your college essay. Now, I'm not telling the rest of you to write about that for your college essay. If you think that's what I'm telling you, you're not listening to me. I'm saying this kid found a way to describe something he's curious, passionate, interested in, okay? What a great, great thing. Number 4, after kind, work hard. Work hard. Think for yourself. Choose the college that's right for you. And now, I'm going to dare to say something that is hard to say in Palo Alto, California. There are colleges and universities worthy of your investigation that are not at the top of the college rankings list. I know, right? Right. I love Stanford University. Right. Yes. I love Stanford University. I worked at Stanford University. It's a marvelous, marvelous school. It is not the only marvelous school. There are 28, now you got to listen to me. I know you're getting excited. Listen, there are 2,800 colleges and universities in this country that have been accredited, meaning they've met standards that the U.S. government has set. 2,800. And as with anything, I'm going to wager that the top band of them is excellent. Call it 5%, call it 10%. We've got 140 to 280 colleges and universities worthy of your attention and your investigation. I want you to find the courage in Gunn High School and Palo Alto, California, and anyone else who's listening for whom this resonates, and pull back the blinders. Look at more schools. Look at more schools. You get the thick booklet that has 200 schools profiled in it. I know what you do. You flip through for the schools whose names you know. I want you to look for the schools that resonate with you. Where will you be challenged? Where will you thrive? Which school has people like you? Where will you feel a sense of belonging? Those schools are out there. It is your job to find them. Trying to get into one of the most highly selective schools right now is like trying to win the lottery, okay? If you do, wow! But hey, with 5 to 10% of the applicants getting admitted, don't kick yourself if you don't get in. Those odds were never in your favor. Instead, have the courage to look at other schools. If you dare to go home, if you dare to believe this, number 1, if you dare to go home, number 2, and say this to your friends and your parents, you might want to be armed with some research. So I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why it's worth your while not to be so utterly focused on the very most selective colleges and universities. Reason number 1, years ago, a study was conducted comparing kids who had gotten the grades and scores that were good enough to get into the most selective schools, but they weren't admitted to the most selective schools because the most selective schools have too many people applying. As you know, there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of qualified kids who won't get into the most selective schools because too many people are applying with that kind of qualification, okay? The research study said if you're one of those kids who had what it took, but they didn't take you, you went somewhere else, your income 20 years later is the same. Your income and net worth 20 years later is the same. What does that message boil down to? It's not the school, it's the kid, okay? That's research lesson number 1. Who you are, where you go to school, wherever is what it's about. Number 2, here's a little reason why you might sort of game the system by going to a school that's not one of the most highly selective schools. Malcolm Gladwell has written about this research in his latest book, David and Goliath. It's the big fish, small pond effect. What it basically says is, you want to go to a college where you can be the man, you can be one of the best. You want to be in the 5 to 10% of your college class, the top 5 to 10% of your college class if you can. Why? Well, because that's when you get the most attention from faculty, most number of opportunities offered to you, more doors of opportunity opening in grad school and the world of work. Be the big fish in the small pond instead of one of the 50% of the people who'll be in the bottom of the class at Stanford or Harvard, et cetera, okay? There's a reason you might benefit from going to the school that's a little bit lesser known, okay? Choose the school that's right for you. That's secret. That's item number 4 on this checklist. And finally, when you get there, study what you love. When you get there, just as here, people are going to be saying, you really need to study STEM, fill in the blank. STEM, you need to be pre-med, you need to go to business school, you need to go to law school, you need to be an econ major. Computer science is where it's at. People will continue to say that. And if that's you, do it. Do it. If it's not you, run away, okay? Run toward yourself. Figure out who you are, what lights you up. I promise you this, and I told every single student at Stanford this over 10 years. If you have the courage, and I know it takes courage to study what you love, to study stuff what makes people go, what is that? If you have the courage, you will go to every class. And you're thinking, well, of course I go to every class. I have to go to every class. But in college, you don't have to go to every class. But you will. If you study what you love, you'll love what you're studying. You'll go. You'll do all the reading. You'll do the extra reading. You'll be brave enough to raise your hand in class, even if you're afraid, because you're so jazzed about the subject, you're going to want to talk about it. You're going to get to know the faculty member. You're going to go to office hours. You're going to listen as your own voice becomes part of the analysis in the room. If you study what you love, life will unfold for you in the most beautiful ways. And that's what leads to the great GPA. And that's what leads to the opportunities you're desperately seeking for after college. Have the courage to be you. It's what colleges want, and it makes for an awesome life, too. Thank you very much. Thank you.